Sup guys and gals, your host with the most, Griever, as always. And what am I bringing you guys today? Well, you guys can tell from the title, but you already know that this is going to be a complaint video. This is going to be a rant video. This is going to make my blood boil and just go, ooh, I don't like that shit. So what are we talking about? Of course, top 5 tropes in manga that I just don't damn like. Top 5 tropes that are overused, that are no good, and they have to stop. That's what we're talking about here. But before we even get into that, before we even get into the list, let's talk about what is a trope. Well, it's pretty straightforward. It ain't going to take much time to explain it. You guys already know what it is. But for those of you who don't, a character trope or a trope is basically stock footage, stock characters. It's something that it's become so commonplace to see it in a setting or story that it becomes a trope because it's throughout a multitude of fiction and media. You can find these similar elements in other forms, regardless if the stories are completely different from one another. That's basically what makes a trope. Now, these tropes, unfortunately, are heavily used across the days in manga. Now, granted, a lot of these are going to be shonen examples, because that's mostly what I read. Shonen examples, and a lot of them are more prevalent in shonen, though, granted, you can still find these things in seinen, and there might be a couple examples for that. Now, there are a lot of tropes. There are a lot of tropes that people like and don't like. What's one of the big ones that people usually stick right to fairy tale? Looking at you, they stick right to fairy tale, the power of friendship. Granted, power of friendship is a big one right out of the gate, right? But it is not on my list. And I'll tell you why it's not on my list right out of the gate here, is that the power of friendship can be done correctly, and it has been used correctly more often than not. Having one manga, like fairy tale, abuse the power of friendship does not necessarily destroy the power of friendship in the next series you read. So, granted, some of these, and I would argue almost all of these, and some of my examples you probably won't even like, but some of these can be handled correctly. Some of them can be handled right. It's just, sometimes they're just handled so piss poor, and in some of the more popular series. So, with that out of the way, there was a couple here that did not make my list. Plot armor was a big one. Plot armor was one that didn't make my list. Another thing was the simple protagonist. Talked about this on Nia D. Hemming's podcast, which I hope to be invited back next month. But it's the whole idea of the simple protagonist. When we were growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, every single character was the simple-minded protagonist. Everybody was the Naruto, the Luffy, the believe it. They were just the, oh, I'm just going to do it. I'm the happy-go-lucky, dumbass who can fight. Right? It was, and the problem is they were a dime a dozen, and granted, even though I like Luffy as a main character, and I like some of the simple-minded protagonists today, that was a trope that seemingly has died down somewhat, though it's still prevalent in a couple of newer manga. It's not as prevalent as it was, so I didn't find, even though it's not a trope that I particularly like, I like to follow a main character who has a goddamn head on his shoulders with past 3rd grade education. That's my personal preference, but it's not as prevalent today as it used to be, so it just didn't quite make the cut. But that's enough of that. Why don't we just jump right in, and this is the top 5 list that I absolutely hate. Now, starting us off with number 5 is one that's a little lesser known, but as someone who's read enough damn manga to know that this does tend to get annoying, especially in longer running series, is a trope that doesn't have a simple name, but it's pretty much when the main character is the only one who can win. Now, what am I talking about? Great example is right damn here with the classic, with Dragon Ball Z. You see this guy in the middle? He's awesome. He's amazing. Yes, he can beat Saitama. But you see this guy over here to the side? You see this? You see this guy? You see this motherfucker? He is named Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, and for God's sakes, after over 30 years, can we give him a goddamn straight-up win? Goku doesn't win the day. Vegeta does. There has been multiple opportunities since the end of Dragon Ball Z, and even before then, where Vegeta should have straight up just won the day, not Goku. However, and I am a big Dragon Ball Z fan, guys. I grew up in the 90s, but this is a serious problem in Dragon Ball Z, and now currently Dragon Ball Super, it's just right in front of our face. In Dragon Ball Z, you can explain it away, the arrogance, the pride, the power-ups. You can try to explain that shit away as far as the Cell Saga. Then it gets a little weird during the Buu Saga, and now in Dragon Ball Super, and especially the movies, looking at you, Resurrection of F, it's just ridiculous. Goku does not need to save the day when you have great other characters alongside. Yes, Goku's our main character. Yes, he can save the day. But Gohan and Vegeta should have their time to shine. Especially Vegeta, and Gohan did have his time to shine in the Cell Saga, of course, but even that was sort of semi-stolen by Goku somewhat at the end, but you could still make an argument for there. But Vegeta has never gotten that. Vegeta has never once, in the entirety of multiple different series, from Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, plus all the movies, has never had his moment where he just straight up wins. End of villain. No coming back, Majin Buu. No any other crap. It's just him. And even when Vegeta is part of the reason to win, it's because of a fusion. This is a huge problem for me because it means that Goku, the main character, is still involved here. It's a serious problem. One Piece does this as well. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Zoro kills Kaido theory, right? I'm not a huge fan of that. But however, Zoro kills Kaido had some merit. There was a good argument for it. Not saying it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen. But the fact of the matter is that One Piece has this big issue where Luffy is the one who takes out the main bad. Nobody else. No matter how powerful Zoro becomes, or even Sanji, though I'm not in the camp that Sanji's on that level. Even if you are, let's use Sanji then. Let's use Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei, Brook, for God's sakes, in certain aspects. These people should be able to take out some of the main bads, and they just never have the opportunity to, or it's written in a way that it's got to be circumvented that somebody's injured, Arlong Park with Zoro, for example, and things like that, where it just comes to the point that Luffy has to be the last one standing, the last one with the main power, and the last one to beat the main bad. Nobody else is eligible, even if there are other characters within that arc that should be able to 1v1 straight up fight the main bad. It never works out that way, and it's a bit of an annoyance. So it's the same with Dragon Ball Z. You have a great cast of characters, powerful characters, and seemingly the main character is always defeated, or the villain of the arc is always defeated by only the main character. Nobody else seems to get a moment to shine. No matter who they destroy, they're never the top dog. It happens in Naruto. It happens to a level in Bleach too. Happens to a level in Bleach. You know, Ichigo's got to be the one to do it all. Now, I love Ichigo. He's one of my favorite main protagonists in shonen battle mangas. But at the end of the day, let's be real, very few other people, even if they are more powerful, for some reason they have to write, Kubo had to write it in a way that Ichigo's got to be the one with the final attack. You know, even when there are other options certainly available at certain times. So that's trope number 5. It's a bit of an odd one. It's a bit of an oddball, but I find it's more and more prevalent, especially in today's current manga, that the main characters are the only ones that can seemingly do anything to save the day. Alright, now we're on to number 4. Now this one is going to have a little more leeway on both sides. This one's a little more in the gray area. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about writing past the point of good writing due to popularity. That is a trope, and I'm calling it a trope because it happens to almost every running damn shonen. It happens to almost all of them. They run past the point of the original plot, of the original point of the manga, and they keep writing due to popularity, due to sales, and then it starts to tank. It's a serious problem, or they get axed. It's one or the other, whichever way you want to take the trope. Series that go on so long and get axed too quickly, and then you have series that keep going, but they shouldn't have. Well, a perfect example of this, and once again, this is why it's in the gray, let's use some obvious ones. Naruto. Even Naruto fans, I am not a Naruto fan, but a lot of Naruto fans can all agree that last arc, it had some good moments, but we're going too crazy here. The Kaguya shit, we all know that fourth Shinobi War, we all know that was not good. It's action-packed, some great battle moments, but yeah, like, it was going past it was long past its prime at that point. Another good example of this would be Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail went way too long. went way too far. To the point that when, even during the Grand Magic Games, it's when King of Lightning himself had to drop the damn manga. It was getting so bad. And that last arc was absolutely ridiculous. Let's be real. Another example of fairy tale should have ended long before. And you can tell, another reason for this is that you can tell that they're not even writing well. The final battles are written with something simple like the power of friendship. The power scaling goes off. Everything ends up being a little wonky because this has been writing past its story. It's writing past its prime. It's sort of like if you continued Lord of the Rings past the ring being destroyed for 3 more books. No, that's not the point of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was destroy the One Ring. It happened in the final book. And then the final book, and that was the last of the Lord of the Rings. It was over, right? That's sort of the thing I'm talking about here. Now some controversial, Shokugeki no Soma, another one. Shokugeki no Soma ended well with the arc before last. Now granted, there was potential for that arc that got absolutely dog shit on and ruined. But Shokugeki no Soma, up until, I guess it would be season 4 for an anime, but around before the final arc, before the blue arc, it was very solid and I was good. I was there. I was good with that. It was there was nothing wrong with the power scaling aspects. Everything was fine. They could have written a much better final arc. But once again, just going past the means of this story. Seven Deadly Sins, another one. Writing too far. Went way too far. Went way too far. At its worst, what we thought was its worst, it just kept going. For some stupid reason, it kept going and just kept writing more and more shit. And it was just getting to the point of being a joke. You know, so a lot of these things, people don't like the ending of Attack on Titan. Though granted, I didn't really like Attack on Titan to begin with, but Attack on Titan's another example that maybe they were trying to be too smart about it. They were trying to be too Death Note, too Full Metal, and they screwed up. You know, Bleach is another one that people can make an argument for, though the 1,000-Year Blood War arc is still a solid arc. There are problems with it, of course. People usually look at the Fullbring arc. I urge you to reread it. It's not nearly as bad as we all seem to remember. But granted, I can see the argument for once Aizen was defeated, that should have been the end of Bleach. I can see that camp. I can see that camp. The 1,000-Year Blood War arc was unnecessary. Let's be real. It truly was. The story could have wrapped up with the defeat of Aizen, and it would have still been a solid series. Granted, Bleach is one of my favorite mangas. I would have loved to have more Bleach, and I did like having more Bleach, but I can see the argument for that was the good stopping point. So I'm just saying that number 4, as I said, is a bit more in the gray. It's a little more controversial, but a lot of these long-running shonen that get popular, especially shonens, they go way past their prime, and then it becomes bad for everybody, you know? So yeah, number 4, I think they gotta stop axing series before they get their sea legs, but also let series go to make room for the next one. Number 3, we're getting into some of the ones that you guys are much more familiar with, because number 3 is the big one that everybody loves to hate on. It's the amnesia trope. Don't we just love that hunky-dory amnesia trope? Got hit on the head, whether in a flashback, whether at the beginning of the series, whether in midway through, and then we go through the amnesia crap. Now, once again, there's a little bit of gray here. There's a little bit of gray. And I'll tell you why, because the Big Mom stuff, that's the one a lot of people are going to be familiar with, right? One Piece, the Big Mom thing in Wano. The thing is, you know how long that shit lasted? Month, 2. Lasted all of like 6 to 9 chapters. She lost her memory for a little while, and it really had very little relevance. Pause for a quick edit and correction, ladies and gentlemen. The total number of chapters that Big Mom suffered her amnesia spell was actually a total of 16. However, I want to make that very clear. Out of those 16 chapters, she only ever appears in 10 total of those chapters. This includes the chapter 947 where her memory actually returns, and 931 where she first got the amnesia at the end of the chapter. And even out of those 10 chapters, some of these chapters she only appears for a single panel with no dialogue whatsoever when she's traveling along with Chopper. So technically, though, the 6 to 8 seemingly is lowballing. Is it really? Anyways, on with the video. And all the things that people were afraid that was going to happen due to the amnesia, like her trying to fight on the side of the Straw Hats and all this stuff, none of that materialized in any way, shape, or form. So regardless of your current problems with Wano or Big Mom, that realistically, did it need to happen? No. No, and I can see why people didn't like it. But unlike other stories that changed the entire story because of amnesia. Know what I'm saying? There are some stories like, I don't know, 7 Deadly Sins Merlin. You want to complain about Big Mom? No. Read 7 Deadly Sins in its entirety and recognize that she... I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm before I can explain, and then I'll be the one with the amnesia by the time I have to explain all the reasons why Merlin is one of the worst things to ever happen in manga history. Why she's just goddamn garbage. But she should be the poster child for the amnesia thing, because it was absolutely ridiculous. And the sad thing is, people tried to defend that. I got to defend 11 chapters of Big Mom not doing anything due to the amnesia, not changing anything in the story, really. Meanwhile, Merlin shapes the entirety of a 346 chapter goddamn manga based on amnesia that she shouldn't have had, which, by the way, there was no trigger for the amnesia. Here's the best part. No trigger for the amnesia, and literally just decided to remember. Oh, and then we can get into spoiler territory with Merlin and be like, but that might have been an act the whole time. Well, once again, that still doesn't make sense if you go back and reread, because there's no benefit to her pretending to have amnesia and then miraculously remembering it anyways. So, literally just terrible writing. One of the worst written things of all time right there. Another good one was Tokyo Ghoul. Specifically. Tokyo Ghoul Ken Kaneki. That shit was goddamn awful, okay? I read 55 chapters out of, I don't know how long Tokyo Ghoul was. It was actually kind of awful. But Tokyo Ghoul was a solid series. I really enjoyed that series. I thought it was interesting. The premise, the characters, everything was great. Then I made the mistake of reading Tokyo Ghoul And let me tell you one thing. That shit was, well, it was kind of awful. And what made part of it awful was that we read 50-odd chapters of an amnesia Ken, when we all know he's going to eventually get his memories back. It was just basically like reading a filler arc. It was a big waste of my goddamn time. I didn't even like the direction or any of the new characters introduced. They're some of the worst written characters in manga, all introduced because of his amnesia and his new personality and all this shit. And it really added nothing to the story, because the characters weren't very good. And then he ends up remembering anyways, and then it actually takes off from there, which is alright, but then sort of screwed up its ending anyways. But, yeah, like, that shit was awful. It was just awful. I don't think I need to bring up a whole lot of examples for amnesia. We all hate the trope. We all know what the trope is. We all know the series where it's done poorly. Now, granted, there are some series where it's handled, as I said, Big Mom. Was it necessary to happen? No. But did it affect anything really? No. So it's not terrible. Another example within One Piece, Sabo, but that didn't affect the story whatsoever in that regard. Sabo having amnesia was okay. Alphonse Elric having amnesia because of the situation that happened to him, and then it's a plot point to try to retrieve the memories early on in the series, and the situations that end up getting the memories back makes total sense. Trauma will make memory loss happen. That's classic. I'm not complaining about that type of amnesia, right? So there are good examples of when this can be handled correctly and for good plot reasons. But most of the time, we all know the amnesia thing. And then you have reverse amnesia with Eren to make him one of the worst characters of all time, and everyone thought he was so badass after the time skip, when it was simply reverse amnesia, and nobody seems to know that. Everybody bitched about Eren after the final chapter. I've been bitching about that guy since episode 1. So, yeah, Eren was reverse amnesia right there. I'm going to flood my brain with 1,000 years of memories and then pretend like I have this crazy idea and plot. It's like, no, he never changed his mind. He got 1,000 years. It was not character development at all. He stole 1,000 years, well, he gained 1,000 years worth of other people's memories, and he just friggin', and then he went, oh, well, now that I'm all cuckoo because I have 1,000 years of worth of shit rolling around in my brain, I'm going to decide to do ABC. That's not character development. That's simply, I touched a button and boom, you know? So it's reverse amnesia in that regard, and that was awful too. But no, I think I've made my case for the Amnesia thing. We all don't like it, and we know plenty of minor and major examples. I just posted some of the ones that I hate the most. But yeah, so that's number 3. Now this may be my number 2, however, I struggled deciding whether this should be my number 1 and my number 1 should be my number 2. You know, I flip-flop back and forth a little bit, but you guys will hear both anyways, so just note that this one could easily make my number 1, and that is one that we all love to bitch about, especially in the One Piece community, not killing your characters when they should be dead. It's such a bad one. Like, let's talk, the Will of P. The Will of P survives. Now, granted, there are some reasons as to why certain things happen. You know, for certain character deaths and why they bring them back and stuff, you know. And we'll get into a few of those. But for the most part, One Piece is terrible for doing this, okay? One Piece is absolutely awful for doing this. Half the people in Wano should be dead. Let's be realistic. Red Scabbards, Kinemon, Kiku, they should be dead. They should straight up be dead. Kanjuro should have been dead a long time ago. Just finally, I think Orochi's finally goddamn dead. Like, thank God. But a lot of these not killing characters is one of the huge, big flags of One Piece. We could almost all, as big One Piece fans, I'm a huge One Piece fan, but at the end of the day, that is a flaw. To kill characters when they should be killed. And to leave them dead. That's a huge thing as well. Because here's another example. One Piece, they don't ever try to bring back characters that we seemingly believed are dead. But then when you have the reverse of that, which is just as bad in things like Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail constantly kills its characters and through some voodoo magic, manga logic, brings them back. Looking at you, Makarov, you've died like 4 goddamn times. And you're old. It'd be okay. Mentor characters die in almost every battle shonen. They almost all die at some point. You know? Or they lose their powers or something like that. Or they end up, you know, an invalid. Something usually happens to the mentor characters. So it would be totally fine if, you know, if Makarov by the end of the series was dead. But Fairy Tail was refusing, would constantly supposedly kill its characters just to bring them back later through, oh, we have super revival magic now, or we have super angel magic, super fairy magic, whatever. They would constantly do this. That's almost as bad as Oda constantly making us think he's finally killed a character just to say they survived things they just should not survive. This is a big problem with a lot of manga, and I think the big ones there are One Piece and Fairy Tail, but there's some other examples of this. Kengan. I'm currently reading Kengan Asura. I'm currently reading that, and there should be some straight up deaths. 2 or 3 characters by the end of round 1 should be straight up dead. I don't care about the manga logic behind it. They're dead. There's just no reason for me to believe they're not. And the fact that they survived these seemingly stupid things is just absolutely ridiculous to me. That is one of the big flaws for me in Kengan, that there are some obvious character deaths, and that's a seinen. That's cursing, swearing, you know, titties are out, blood everywhere, bone crunching, like, especially seinen. It's actually worse because it's seinen. In shonen, you can sort of understand to that level of degree that they really don't kill characters often, so it's expected. But in seinen, I expect to see character deaths carpet bomb through that entire story. That's why it's a seinen, not a shonen. You wanted the blood, gore, and violence and realism. You got the blood and gore and violence, but you didn't follow through with it. So that's a big flaw for me with Kengan. Now, there is an example that we will talk about right here quick before we move on to the number 1 spot, which is an example like Bleach. Byakuya. There's the big one. However, Kubo, by the looks of it, completely intended to kill off Byakuya Kuchi. However, supposedly receiving many, many death threats. This is the problem of the fan community. This is supposedly the rumor that he received many, many death threats through letters, through intimidation, through phone calls, through whatever means. You know, I can't confirm or deny anything that actually happened, but at the end of the day, he brought, that is the rumor that he had to bring Byakuya back because very fan favorite character, and, you know, people are insane. The fan community was at some of its toxic levels. Just like I'm not a huge My Hero Academia fan, that shit's pretty mid overall, you know, X-Men and manga, but the amount of death threats that Horikoshi and hate mail that Horikoshi was receiving is absolutely unfair and ridiculous. How toxic a community are you? Are you really fans? Or are you just rioters? You know, so there is something to be said for that. So, and in the same sense, let's give it out to One Piece. The whole Will of P thing happened, apparently, it was something around 9/11. The editors made a decision and told Oda, listen, we think this is in bad taste right now. There's too many parallels, too many similarities with the death of Pell in the manga, so we need you to bring him back. And people made the joke about Pedro, though Pedro is seemingly still dead, so he will kill characters. But unfortunately, the Will of P thing, there is the rumor, once again, just a rumor, that the 9/11 attack, of course, in the United States, made him have to retcon Pell surviving. So there is some examples of not killing characters or bringing them back with not very good explanations, and usually some of them do have a reason. Some of them do have a reason. So, but overall, no. In general, not killing your characters, serious flaw with some of the biggest mangas and some of the best mangas, and it's just like, can we start just if you're gonna kill a character, kill him proper, you know? That's all I'm saying. Now let's just move on to the last one. Okay, so we're finally on to the #1 spot of the trope that I hate the most personally in the manga I read. Now, granted, some have been left off this list. As I said, the power of friendship has been left off. The convenient power-up. The dead parents trope of all our main characters. The time limits on abilities. Looking at almost every battle shonen. I can only use this form for 3 minutes, you know, that kind of thing. A lot of those can be irritating. Sometimes they can be handled well, sometimes they can be extremely irritating. But this one for me I have a personal vendetta against, and it takes the damn cake, and it is the body snatcher villain. The body snatcher villain is the worst thing that I've read in manga, and to this day, even if it's done well, I instinctively don't like it. This is due to 2 series that I really, really loved and really enjoyed, but the body snatching thing became such an overconvenient or some of the dumbest plot points ever that I can't like it from here on out. So there's a lot of bias in this particular choice. But what am I talking about by body snatcher? Well, let's look no further than the Demon King from 7 Deadly Sins. That's the big reason. That's the big one, okay? We had hyped up this ultimate god of an entire plane of existence through 7 Deadly Sins. All these crazy powers and stuff, and this guy was the king. He was the main villain, lurking in the shadows. When were we going to see him? What was his overall goal? We were thinking 3D chess level plot lines. We had no idea what is his end game. We had all these theories and all this craziness, and at the end of the day, you know what his plan was? Gonna steal the main character's body. That's it. That's it. Now, that alone, you could say, well, the main character was pretty strong, right? That was a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been. Except that he could have stolen his other son's body at the very beginning of the series, wiped everybody out, and then taken the main character's body before that. Just saying. Or the fact that he never needed to do this in the first place because he had him trapped the entire time anyways in purgatory. Or the fact, never mind, you guys can watch all my rant videos and all the 7 Deadly Sins stuff because this list will be very, very long if I go on a whole Demon King, why it's the worst fucking chapter 300 is the worst chapter of all time. Other than that, or at least one of them, my top 5, one of the worst chapters ever to happen to a manga was chapter 300 of 7 Deadly Sins. And that is the reason, the body snatching main villain. It was absolutely dreadful, and it ruined the body snatcher trope for me because it happens more often than you think. Another good example of this is Naraku from Inuyasha. Not exactly the similar type of body snatching, not literally taking the body of the main characters and controlling them, but more so constantly absorbing other, you're constantly going around and manipulating. Even the movies do this. Constantly trying to find like some OP ability, you know. It's like, ha 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 ha. If I just lurk in the shadows, let the main character do all the damage, then I will jump in at the end and take their body and power for my own and add it to my own power, so I'm even stronger than before. And Naraku did this for over 500 goddamn chapters, okay? 500 chapters of Inuyasha, and that bitch just refused to, like, he never did anything else. It's like, oh, I need like the ultimate barrier thing, so that the main character can get a barrier breaking sword, right? It's like, that was the constant thing. I'll have the ultimate defense. Broke my ultimate defense. All right, I'll have the ultimate attack. Gets the ultimate attack. I have to have space and time manipulation. Well, I'll go get that. Constantly body snatching other people's unique abilities for himself and thinking he's all that in a bag of chips when he's just a very skeeving, conniving opportunist. I don't mind Naraku as a villain overall, but I couldn't, after reading that day in and day out, like it's a goddamn kids' TV show, like watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like the villain of the week every week doing the exact same thing, Megazord, boom, 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 we kill him, make my monster grow. It got old really freaking quick, you know? So I was watching Inuyasha for other things outside of Naraku by the time we reached a certain point. There's other limited examples of this that potentially can be good. The whole Nagato pain thing from Naruto, you can argue that's a bit of body snatching in its way. It's more puppeteering, still technically body snatching and controlling and stuff to throw us for a loop. I mean, I didn't mind the pain fight, so I guess it's all right. The Ninth Espada did it, but that was good for Rukia's character development there. I think it was the Ninth Espada. It was I can't say his name, but basically the one that took over Kai and Shiba there, the one with the two skulls in the glass. That made character sense for Rukia's character to try to get over and stuff. So you could argue that that one wasn't handled poorly. Shenron, Omega Shenron did it, or Sin Shenron did it in the end of Dragon Ball GT. Going on Dragon Ball, the Goku thing. There's a perfect example of a true body snatch in Dragon Ball Super Goku Black. I mean, like, as I said, the big theory is that Goten somehow grew up to be evil. That would have been way superior. Everyone assumed it was evil Goku, when in fact it was actually Goten who turned evil in this timeline for A, B, C reasons. Something they could have done something great with it, and instead we got Goku Black, just a Kai wishing the dragon to steal the body snatch. It's like, I mean, long before we had Ginyu, but that was just a change now body snatch, and even that was like, you know, that just, all that did was delay the Frieza saga and stuff. So as you can tell, I never really cared for it, even back as a kid watching Ginyu pull that stunt in as early as the Frieza saga when I was a kid. So I currently didn't really like much of that. And then once again, bringing up the time limit thing, they had to nerf Vegito, which honestly, guys, my favorite fusion. I'm a Vegito over Gogeta fan. I like them both, but I'm a Vegito fan. They finally bring him back after goddamn over 15 years. I've been waiting for the greatness of Vegito to come back. They bring him back. He's kicking ass. He doesn't care that this bitch is immortal. He keeps beating the shit out of him. And then they retcon the Potara earrings just because they couldn't have Vegito take a win. They needed to pull some bullshit. So very disappointing in that. And let's bring up the current one. Jujutsu Kaisen's Kenjaku. I'm not impressed with you and your body snatching abilities. Everyone's putting you so high up on the food chain for some reason, but all you've done is stolen other people's great abilities thus far. We know you can pull up barriers, and we know that you can use other people's abilities that you've stolen. Where am I supposed to be impressed so far? You know? Like, sure, that's a way of doing things, but as I said, between the Demon King, between Naraku, between Goku Black, by the time we got to Kenjaku, I was like, really? This is gonna be our main villain? This is what I'm just like, get the fuck, I don't give a shit about you. I don't care. And he couldn't even 1v1 the broken Gojo, so Gege just made him fucking cheat to fucking win. And it was like, body snatchers, man. They think they're so clever and people rate them so high. People put the Demon King up there. People put Kenjaku up there. People put Goku Black. They put these body snatchers up there when all they're doing is stealing shit. They're opportunists at best. They're smart. I'll give them that one. They're smart, but they're opportunists. They can't win straight up like a Chad, so they have to go around and figure out 90 million ways of figuring this shit out. And that can be handled correctly, like the Major in Helsing. He freely admitted, I can't fucking beat you, so I'm going to spend the next, like, 70 years figuring out a way to do it, you know? You could argue that Kenjaku's sort of doing the same way, but the difference is that the other one was sort of, like, talking smack. The Major was never talking smack. The Major freely admitted he, like he's not that great, you know? So there's a big difference in that, I think, in a sense. But anyways, at the end of the day, those are my top 5. I don't want to keep going on different examples. This video will be way too long. But of course, my top videos are always going to be long. Imagine if this was top 10. Jesus, this thing would be over an hour. So, but anyways, regardless, those are my top ones. If you agree or disagree with any of the points or examples, please let me know down in the comments section down below. And which ones, as I said before, which ones do you hate that I missed out on? Do you hate the time limit? Do you hate the convenient power-up? Do you hate, you know, this, that, and the other thing? The plot armor of main characters, the simple protagonist, the, you know, whatever it is, the power of friendship, dead parents, regardless. What do you guys really hate? Do you even hate simple things that most people like training montages? Do you not like that? Do you not like the whole time skips? Do you hate time skips? It's a trope. Most people don't mind them, but some people might dislike them as a trope. So let me know what you guys think. What are your top 5 most hated tropes in manga that you read? Down in the comment section down below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Like, comment, subscribe as always. Fourth and most importantly, drink, but responsibly, as I always do. And we'll see you guys back here next time for the next, well, not piece of One Piece, but a list, a video, something. Anyways, see you guys back here next time. Bye-bye.